Welcome to this online conflict management training. In assembling this input, I have drawn from multiple sources. There is a massive corroborating material available open source, and our team has applied our own experiences to pick out pieces we feel most relevant to equip you, our listening audience, with the tools we feel most valuable in practice. Please view the lessons as foundations to additional learning. I am Mike Franklin, your presenter today, and you can review my credentials on the company website under our team. Lionsgate Risk Management Group is a leading-edge security and risk management firm that provides a comprehensive suite of superior investigation, intelligence, security, protection, and community safety services. We draw from each of our business verticals to provide clients with a bespoke service to meet identified and agreed needs, and we pride ourselves on being security concept driven with no affiliations to security products or product providers. What you get is what you need to deliver an optimal security performance with a layered security solution that is appropriate, realistic, and cost commensurate. Please visit our website at https://www.lgrmg.ca. In the next 30 minutes or so, we will provide you with direct teaching on how to identify and de-escalate an agitated person while keeping yourself safe. We have tweaked this presentation to address the escalation of conflict generators that continue to materialize and grow during the COVID-19 pandemic, and which will likely include challenges if vaccination delays and delivery programs are not deemed timely and fair. Consider also the vaccine candidate throughput challenges and possibility for heightened agitation if there are lineups at vaccination clinics. These clinics will really need to schedule vaccine recipients utilizing appointments, or more realistically ensuring the capacity to meet the demand and keep the lines moving. There should be no one in the line that has not received an authorization to be there. This is an online learning presentation designed to provide a foundation for additional learning and to provoke conflict management thinking. In any conflict, you have a choice, so long as you are agile enough to recognize the onset of that conflict situation at an early point. You can, through response, either escalate the potential for violence or de-escalate that potential. What can be challenging is the often minimal amount of time you have to assess and then respond to achieve de-escalation. What may interest you is learning that you are already programmed with a response to conflict, a response embedded during your childhood. Unless you manage that ingrained response, it functions automatically and is your default response setting. It takes conscious application and discipline to adjust that default response to achieve the required style or combination of styles. There are 5 generally recognized styles of handling or managing conflict, which you can see on the slide. Controlling or competing. Zero-sum orientation or zero-sum thinking refers to a psychological construct, a person's subjective interpretation of a situation where one person's gain would be another's loss. Please remember, in these controlling scenarios, there is a vast difference between being assertive and being aggressive. Compromising. This is where an outcome is minimally acceptable to all, and where relationships are left undamaged. Is there really time to reach compromise in a quickly escalating situation? Avoiding means withdrawing from the situation, maintaining neutrality at the expense of leaving the situation unresolved, at least by you. Accommodating is where you accede to the other party and in doing so maintain harmony, but fail totally to deliver to your instructions, agenda, or requirements. Finally, collaborating, where you expand the range of resolution options in an effort to ensure everyone wins, or at least does not lose. Again, is there really the time in an escalating situation to collaborate, particularly in a busy customer service environment, for example? This conflict handling styles matrix charts assertiveness, which is focused on your needs, desired outcomes, and agenda, versus cooperativeness, which is focused on the other's needs and mutual relationships. Which of the 5 conflict styles or combination of the 5 would best suit a mask-wearing access control point in a retail store, where the store has posted in line with public health orders that wearing is mandatory? The ideal answer is controlling, with just a hint of collaborating in the language. Plenty of assertion, but with just enough acknowledgement of the situation of the potential originator of the conflict. But, and it's a big but, is that how this is going to pan out in the real world? The answer is no. And no, because although there are public safety rules that make this mandatory, the immediate availability of enforcement authority is going to be missing. There is a window of risk before law enforcement can arrive. That said, those prepared to challenge mandatory mask wearing now do so in full knowledge they can be fined, so they need to be handled with greater care, having ignored that additional risk. The positive aspect of the mandate is the reduction in potential for these confrontations to occur. The more likely combination you will employ, because your safety may depend on your conflict management style, may start with assertive controlling, stressing the rules, and without compromise. But without the resources or support to handle conflict elevation, and even the threat of violence, this may well change, and quickly. The change would likely be to cooperativeness with avoidance, and through avoidance accommodating. You may do this to prevent a scene that affects other customers, or for many reasons in the moment. You're effectively saying, these are the rules, but without the immediate presence of an authority from enforcement, I'm reluctant to challenge you just in case you retaliate. To find out your personal conflict management style, Google "What is your conflict management style?" quiz, as shown here. You will have numerous choices, and I would suggest selecting 3 or more or drawing comparisons. I'm not going to specify which you should select. I'll leave you to choose. Carefully consider the results and the impacts on confrontation threat scenarios relative to you. Reflect as well on past conflicts and how you have sought resolution. We have already established that aggression can be unpredictable and that a person may move quickly from slightly agitated to full-scale aggression. Identification of escalation's early stages will help you to respond effectively. Crisis thinking is often characterized by illogical, concrete, and unfocused responses, where non-crisis thinking is more logical, abstract, and reasonable. So let's look in a bit more detail at the 7 stages of behavior escalation. The first stage is calm, where the person is relatively cooperative and calm. The next stage introduces a trigger, a point at where the person experiences unresolved conflicts, which trigger an escalation in negative behavior. This can quickly translate into agitation, where the person becomes more upset and becomes unfocused. If the conflict remains unresolved, the behavior can accelerate and the focus is suddenly all on the conflict. At the peak, the person loses control and exhibits severe behavior which might manifest in verbal assault or actual physical violence. On the other side of the peak is de-escalation. The venting and the severe behavior in the peak stage have subsided and the person may well appear confused. The last stage is recovery, where the person displays a willingness to participate in activities. Factors that may trigger aggression are manifold. This list is as visible to you as it is to me, so I'm just going to speak to some of the more COVID relevant. The preconditions or states are not in focus even though they have a role. The situation is more the focus here, and those that have risen to the top of the pile during COVID are somewhat predictable. Stressful situations become highly stressful as more time passes. Pandemic fatigue sets in, and our capacity for self-control might wane. The rules regime and freedom of movement restrictions are telling for all of us, and to make matters worse, the inconsistency in application of rules or perception of unfairness, feeling of injustice, is extremely damaging. We have no power over the restrictions and the behavior of others, and this feeling of powerlessness increases fear. Where common signs of agitation are concerned, your self-preservation instincts will generally kick in and alert you. A relaxed, stress-free person is evidently so, and the opposite is equally apparent, so give yourself a self-preservation rebrief and review this list of indicators. None are particularly subtle. Verbal de-escalation is a series of techniques and a subset of conflict management for use with people who are at risk for aggression. It is basically using calm language along with other communication techniques to diffuse, redirect, or de-escalate a conflict situation. Without specialized training, never consider the use of physical force as your first response. Physical force or the use of a weapon is a last resort to prevent injury to yourself or to another person. Use of physical force or employment of a weapon, even in self-defense, usually results in someone, that is, you, getting hurt, and often with the weapon carried into the confrontation being used against you. There are three main aspects of communication: body language, tone, and word choice. Which of these do you think has most influence and which least? Body language is 55% of communication. So you are already sending strong messages before even opening your mouth. How you say what you say accounts for a further 38% of communication. So tone is vital. Words, in the final analysis, account for just 7% of communication. Let's try reading some body language. What is her body language saying in the image on the left? Controlling or competing. You are being told. In the image on the right, her open posture suggests collaborating or open to discussion. In the image at center, her closed, folded arms posture says bored, get on with it, and not engaged. Now let's look at a slightly more focused facial expressions test. Fairly topical at this time, the Donald Trump zipped smile is the smile that Trump defaults to when he is in the public eye. The mouth is closed and the teeth remain hidden. There could be several reasons why Trump is so attached to the zipped smile. One is it makes him look less submissive. By avoiding a full-blown smile, he can appear circumspect while keeping his options open, something he evidently likes to do. Because zipped smiles are so effective at capturing people's attention, they provide a perfect vehicle for Donald Trump to disguise his feelings of vulnerability. The alpha face of lowered brows, narrowed eyes, and a firmly set mouth is the antithesis of submissiveness. Donald Trump is unyielding of his position or standpoint, right or wrong. The Donald Trump puckered chin. The fact that a puckered chin features in so many of Donald Trump's zipped smiles suggests that he frequently feels threatened. Then there is the exaggerated mouth. You can't help notice the way that Trump protrudes and contorts his mouth. In fact, his lips appear to have an almost prehensile quality, as if they were an extra pair of hands reaching out from his face to manipulate the world around him. Does he feel that the capacity of his audience to understand is so limited that he needs to enlist every articulatory channel to get his message across? The chin jut. One of the ways that Donald Trump tries to look like a tough politician is by jutting out his chin. By using the chin jut, Trump is taking full advantage of this fact, tilting his head back, thrusting out his lower jaw, and attempting to give the impression that he deserves to be in charge. Although Donald Trump instinctively recognizes the demeaning potential of smiling, there are occasions when he's prepared to throw caution to the wind and give a full-blown big smile. Trump tends to produce these beaming smiles when he's in a convivial setting and when he doesn't feel the need to look like a leader. When he's incensed, he pulls out all the stops and produces a larger-than-life spectacle of fury. The Donald Trump angry face has eyes narrowed, brows tightly knitted together, mouth open, and jaw tense. Body language sends signals. The list on the left is that language, and the list on the right the message or indicator. The color coding added to the slides show which pairs with which. So shoulders shrugging can be interpreted as not open-minded or listening, jaw set with clenched teeth as hostile and threatening, finger pointing as accusing or threatening, a fake smile as uncaring or mocking, excessive gesturing, pacing, fidgeting, or weight shifting shows anxiety, and finally touching, even when culturally appropriate, shows uncaring or unknowing. To prevent yourself being a catalyst to increased tension, avoid turning your back, quick actions, and aggressive postures. Try to appear calm and self-assured even if you don't feel it. Maintain limited eye contact, but don't completely avoid eye contact. Eye contact is a trust and honesty indicator. Maintain a neutral facial expression. As you've already seen, face sends very strong signals. Place your hands in front of your body in an open, relaxed position, and remember that folded arms is a closed position. Engage at the same eye level as your conflict originator. Higher, and you're already saying, "I'm the authority here." Don't adopt a superior position. There's a reason why children are far more receptive when a parent joins them at eye level to communicate. What about best stance? And Jackie Chan is not recommended. Stand at an angle, feet are hips width apart, one foot in front of the other. This gives you greater balance and mobility. Stay far enough away so that the other person cannot hit, kick, or grab you. When we consider safe distances, it's a personal thing. So where is your comfort zone? Are you happy when a person's sharing the smell of their mouthwash with you, face to face, for example? Or is that just too up close and personal? It's somewhat ironic that COVID-19 physical distancing deals with this for us right now. An easy exercise for you as you reflect on this presentation is to ask a person in your COVID-19 bubble to stand approximately 5 feet in front of you and facing you. Ask that person to slowly move towards you and then say stop when you feel your personal space is invaded. Remember, you're going to feel more comfortable with the person you know closing down the space. In your analysis, ask yourself how you felt and consider how those feelings can help during an escalation. Intimate space is generally regarded as anything inside 18 inches. Casual space is 18 inches to 4 feet. Social space 4 feet to 12 feet. And public space over 12 feet. The COVID physical distancing mark is at 2 meters, 6 foot 6 inches, and inside the social space. And rather than quibble over the feet or meters variation, I prefer the additional clearance. Just be aware that violence-prone individuals perceive the need for a wider territorial space in order to feel comfortable. In fact, 5 times the normal physical space. So someone at a distance initially may be more of a threat than someone much closer. Tone expresses speakers' feelings or attitudes. The listener interprets the speaker's message through tone and not words. Remember, 38% of communication depends on tone. So try this tough exercise. Say, "You made it here on time," in a relieved tone. The way you might when a friend and colleague on a last warning leaves arriving for work right down to the wire. "Oh, you made it here in time." It's quite tough trying to act tone when delivering tone would normally be spontaneous. Now try "You made it here on time" in a happy tone. "You made it here on time." Next, try a patronizing tone. "You made it here on time." And finally, in an irritable tone. "You made it here on time." I apologize for my interpretations, but I hope you get the point. So let's focus more on different tones and what they might signal. A stern tone might indicate confidence, assertiveness, but could also read as aggressiveness. A timid, wavering, hesitant tone, fear and a lack of self-assurance. A lowered tone, uncertainty. And finally, a raised tone, or both. With volume, if you are loud, you are overpowering, authoritative, and unwilling to hear others. If you are soft, you are unassuming, docile, and signaling fear. Your rate of delivery matters. If you're slow but rhythmic, it has a soothing effect. You come across as controlled. But don't mistake slow and rhythmic for deliberate and patronizing. Calm and firm both promote confidence. Finally, politeness in tone and words. Be respectful and definitely no name calling. It costs nothing to please and thank you, and that indicates respect. Where words are concerned, there are some fairly straightforward directions. Do not get loud or yell over a screaming person. Wait until he or she takes a breath before speaking calmly at normal volume. Respond simply and repeat if necessary. Always answer informational questions, no matter how rudely they are asked. They are information-seeking questions and need to be answered. Do not answer abusive questions. And finally, Try to help a person talk out angry feelings rather than act on them. In a conflict situation, do not be defensive, even if comments, curses, or insults are directed at you. They are generally not about you. Be honest. Lying to calm someone down may lead to future escalation if the dishonesty is discovered. If honesty includes further upsetting news or revelations, try waiting for a post-peak de-escalation moment, if you can, to convey. Explain limits and rules in a firm but respectful tone. Give choices, where possible, in which both alternatives are safe ones. Be respectful when firmly setting limits or calling for help. The agitated individual is very sensitive to feeling shamed and disrespected. Always utilize the core conditions. Empathize with feelings, but not with behavior. I understand that you're frustrated, but it's not okay for you to threaten me. Suggest alternative behaviors where appropriate. We have many vulnerable customers, and you wearing a mask helps them and us reduce virus transmission, which could prove fatal to them. The first and only de-escalation objective is to reduce the level of anxiety to encourage the possibility for discussion, because reasoning with an enraged person is not possible. Techniques that show you are listening include using brief non-verbal statements, accompanied by positive head nodding. Simple verbal responses like, okay, I see, I'm listening. Minimal encourages demonstrate to the person that you are listening and paying attention, without stalling the dialogue or creating an undue interruption. Reflecting shows evidence of active listening by repeating what the person has said, but avoid being a parrot. That would be irritating. These statements should be brief. Do not interrupt the agitated person. An example would be, I'm tired of the COVID rules being different everywhere I go and it's making me angry. Or, why are vaccinated customers not required to go through the same sanitization procedures? Sir, I recognize that rules and freedoms vary from place to place, and that's not helpful for anyone. The vaccinated are deemed less risk retransference of the virus. I share your frustration and understand why it makes you angry. However, open questions are those that cannot be answered in a few words. They encourage the client to speak and for the questioner to establish their concerns. Typically, open questions begin with what, why, how, or could. These types of questions allow you to get more information, allow you to assess whether the situation is potentially dangerous to you, and will allow you to assess whether the person is rational. In summing up, your conflict management style represents your inclination or natural tendency when faced with a situation of conflict. Do trust your instincts in these situations, and if de-escalation is not working, stop what you are doing. If the situation feels unsafe, call for help, and then leave the confrontation space. The acronym TACOS is very useful and memorable here for the don'ts in verbal de-escalation and managing conflict. Don't threaten. Don't argue. Don't challenge. Don't order. And don't shame. Knowing the 5 main conflict styles can help you understand the choices you have for managing conflict. And knowing your own conflict style can help you identify how you might want to approach conflict differently, how you might better manage it, depending on the nature of your relationship with the person with whom you are in conflict, the amount of time you have to manage the conflict, and the importance of the issue to you or your employer. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this online training input. I hope you emerge from it feeling provided with some direction, which will lead you to being better equipped to manage and successfully de-escalate conflicts before they reach a peak where safety might be compromised. Lionsgate has a great deal of insight into workplace violence prevention and programs, and would be very pleased to hear from you. Pick up the phone and call and discuss your views on this presentation and your specific scenarios. Our expertise is your peace of mind, and we're always happy to help. If you would like this short, tight presentation delivered to your workforce, please again call. And finally, please take the opportunity to review our website, www.lgrmg.ca, and the full range of services we offer. You can also contact me on my email, which is shown here.